Man, that music just takes me to a whole nother level. Welcome to another episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show with my co-host, the beautiful, the sexy Miss Talk herself, Miss Yolanda Smith. What's up?
Hey, another day, another dollar. You show make me want to holler. Ow! Let's do it.
You know what, Yolanda? This show's going to be very, very impactful. You ever had one of them things where somebody asks you, what have you gone through in your life?
All the time.
And you don't know who to talk to and so forth. But today, on the show, we have from North Carolina two extraordinary individuals that's going to talk to us about how to walk me through that.
You like that, don't you? Listen to that. Walk me through that. Okay, whatever that is.
We got somebody here that's going to explain the purpose with that saying. In the studio today, we have Miss Deborah Rowley, and from Taj Talk, Mr. Taj himself. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you so much, Andre Crayton. And the Miss Beautiful, you're right, the Miss Beautiful Yolanda. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you guys here.
I'm going to let Yolanda start this off because this is very impactful podcast today because you're also using this platform to launch Walk Me Through That. Am I correct, Deborah?
That's correct.
All right, take us through that. Tell us what started this idea of Walk Me Through That.
You moving too fast.
Well, you take over.
You said I could do it. I love the walk me through that. But before we get to the walk me through that, we want to know a little bit about you. Mm-hmm. You know, we're getting ready to bust this podcast out. You're going to have thousands and thousands of viewers. We're excited.
Hundreds of thousands.
Okay, well, you know.
We're going to bring the scratch off the followers.
Thousands don't stop. You know, you can go into infinity and beyond. But nonetheless, it's going to be a success. We know that. We know you. We're excited to have you here. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit. Tell the audience, who is Deborah Riley?
Who is Deborah Riley? Well, Deborah Riley's a lot of things. I'm a therapist by trade, although that's not what this show is going to be about. I'm a mother of three sons. I've got three sons. I'm going to be a grandmother.
All right now.
Right, in February to a little boy. We just did the gender reveal, which was a whole ordeal. But it's a boy. And I'm a dog owner, too.
Wow.
Maggie May is my little dog at home. But really who I am is somebody who just has always enjoyed a story. You know, I've always been a listener. I'm a therapist, right? And going way, way back, as far as I can remember, I had this sense of division. I saw it at a really young age, and I've been able to see it through my life. And when we had this pandemic, where we were all sort of sheltered in together, and then sort of the last 4 years with everything going on in the world, never more did I see division. And I wanted to do some small something towards repairing some of that division. You know, I do, one of my trades is trauma. I also do marriage and family therapy. So the whole point of that therapy is repair, right? Restoration. So it got me thinking, how do I do one movement towards restoration with what's going on in the world? And it always comes back to connection. You know, when we know someone, then it's harder to separate from them.
So let's do this. Just for the audience purposes, when you say division, help them understand what you're speaking about.
Well, I grew up in a suburb actually outside of Indianapolis, and it was an all-white suburb.
What suburb was
Must
that?
have been Carmel.
It was Carmel.
That's where I live now. Don't go there.
Well, the truth shall set you free.
Hey, don't go there.
It was Carmel. And as you know, that's a wealthy area.
Yes, it is.
And it's a white area. Well, it used to be.
Typically.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, it was.
Exactly.
And I did not have a wealthy family. So a lot of what I had to go through as a kid was hiding that fact.
The haves and the have-nots.
The haves and the have-nots, because all my friends had. And so while they would go shopping with their parents, I would be working at this place called The Warehouse, which is a great little store that used to have in downtown Carmel, so that I could have the same clothes. I was saving my money so that I could have to have my own car, you know, do the same things that my friends would do. I would work to pay for those athletic fees, because I played soccer in high school. I had to pay for those fees, you know.
So a little bit of the imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the same hand, I became aware of the racism. We had in the neighborhood I lived in, we had a black family move in next door, and a really wonderful family, and I used to babysit for them. And I came home one night, and there was a cross burning in the front yard. And I will never forget when they came out of that house, the look on their face, holding their little baby, looking at the cross in their front yard. And I was so confused, you know, because I really didn't understand. I was like, well, this is a cross, which I've been told is supposed to stand for Christianity and
unity
love and unity, all those things, and yet it's burning in their yard. And I really, that was the first real time I had to really face what is racism and why does it affect them and not me, and what is my role in it. And then, you know, so we had the rich versus poor, we had the black versus white. I was not raised in a religious family. That was a religious area, so that there was scrutiny there. You know, why doesn't your family go to church? And so I really started to see that us versus them mentality at a really young age. And as I've gotten older, it just bothers me more. Yeah. And when
we call it the isms.
Yes.
Classism, racism,
Exactly.
socialism. You know, all the isms.
Exactly.
Sexism. Yeah.
And when you break it down, you know, from a psychological standpoint, which is my trade, you know, it's like, it's the ego's desire and need to be separate, right? I can't be this if you're not that. I can't be up here if you're not down there. And we saw a lot of that during the pandemic. You know, we saw the Democrats versus the Republicans. We saw the mask versus the non-mask, the vaccinators versus the non-vaccinators, the Trumpers versus the Biden supporters, the black versus white. You know, it just went on and on and on. And it's like, what has happened to us? You know, and how do we get back to each other? And so, you know, I met Taj. We were doing some social justice work for a show about the prisoners coming out back and acclimating back into society. And we just started dialoguing. And I told him I had this idea for a show, and I had the name, walk me through that. And he said, why don't you do it? And I was like, well, how would I do that? You know, I've never had a podcast.
And look at you now.
And look
getting
at now.
ready to launch.
That's right.
Yes.
Getting ready to launch.
Tosh, what was some of the stuff that you took notes on with the inmates coming in and out of prison? And were these male and females? Were these youths as well?
Male, female, both. And just to kind of piggyback on that is that we did something that was akin to a job fair, but it provided all of the resources. After someone's been incarcerated, it had every resource that you would need in order to acclimate oneself back into society. So we set that up, and I took the camera and stuff there, and we interviewed all the folks. We live streamed it, we put it up, and it was, to use your word, it was very impactful for the community. So they enjoyed it so much they reached out and said, Aaron, would you be interested in helping to do a collaborative radio show to whereby the community would have a better idea as to what people deal with when they've been incarcerated. The families would also know what resources are available, because you think about it, if you've been locked up for 8 to 10 years, you don't have a resume together, you don't have health care together, you don't even know what's going on now because society moves so fast. So to be able to be a bridge for community and inmates and families of inmates to say, hey, here are the resources there, and to be a community to say, hey, you paid your price, welcome back, you don't have to look back over your shoulder, and we're not looking at you with an eye of judgment. You know what I mean? So
what was the recidivism?
Well, with this program now, the recidivism is changing, but you see a lot of that because people don't have the resources. If you don't have, number one, a family to go to love you, if you don't have the resources to even know how to get a job interview, get a resume together,
or nobody will give you a job,
so then you're gonna probably go back to what you were doing and then end up in prison.
Yes.
So to your question, this gave an opportunity to lessen the recidivism that was happening because now, we're not out here by ourselves. We have resources. So from that, she came on, we did an interview. She knocked it out the park, and the people really loved it. She told me about this, and she said, hey, I want to do something that really allows people to tell their story. And I'm a storyteller. Mm-hmm. I'm a story listener. I love talk radio. I've always been a talk radio fan. So when she said that, that just that struck me right. And of course, doing Taj Talk, I like to talk to people. I like to listen as well. So we said, let's do it. And we came here to see you. Let me say this. Being on the 35th floor of this beautiful studio in downtown, overlooking the green room, all the refreshments, the staff. This is the bomb. That jacuzzi you got is great. So
let me tell you, it is not cheap either, buddy.
We love you. You're always welcome. Absolutely. Beast mode. Well, one of the things that comes to mind is, I'm a storyteller. I'm a branding expert, as you know, and I spend a lot of time really helping people to articulate the value that they can bring to others. So when you think about the show, what are some of the topics you hope to address on the show that are really going to get people engaged and can offer some sort of help and support and connectivity?
Well, the real goal of the show, it's funny because we have this wonderful woman who's doing our branding. Her name is Sarah Boone. I'm going to give her a shout out.
Woohoo, Sarah!
Woo, she did this logo.
Okay,
Beautiful
I like
logo,
it.
too.
I like
It's a
it.
nice
I like
logo,
it.
right? One of the things that came out was she did a brand sprint, right? And for people that don't know what a brand sprint is, when you get interviewed for like an hour trying to get to the core of what are you trying to portray. And really what I said to her is I want the show to be a safe place for people to come on and say whatever they want to say without being judged, so that it'll be open to any race, any class, any intelligence, any gender preference, any political affiliation. Because we're not coming on to talk about the issues, we want to get to know you.
Right.
Right?
We're not trying to cure people.
We're
here.
not trying to cure people. We're not trying to change anyone's minds. We're trying to open eyes, open hearts, open eyes, right? That's what we want to do. And I've joked and I've called it's an evolution revolution, right? Because it's like we're here on the earth to evolve, right? Somehow we got stuck, so we got to have a revolution
to get us
back
Yes,
into
yes,
that place
yes.
of love and compassion and understanding of each other. You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with anybody.
But at least agree to disagree.
Agree
we don't
to
have to fight
disagree.
about
That's
it. We
right.
don't have to shoot about it.
That's exactly
We can just
right.
say we don't agree.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, what's going on in the world today is really unnerving. Just when you can cut somebody off or, cut a lane of traffic and all of a sudden as a result a 6-year-old child dies because somebody pulls out a gun and starts
Right.
shooting.
Yeah, I heard about
You
it.
get
It's
mad and you don't like your work, so you just go and shoot up everybody in the workplace.
Yeah.
There is something fundamentally wrong with that thinking, so somewhere we've definitely lost our way.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, allowing people to be themselves, do you feel like that will give the community that comes in to watch you an opportunity to really understand that we're more alike than we are different, no matter what we're going through?
Absolutely. I mean, when couples come to me when they're estranged in their marriage or their relationship, it's usually because they've lost the ability to be vulnerable with each other. It's just not, they don't feel safe anymore. And, what I want is for people to feel safe in being vulnerable, because that's where you create intimacy, right? And when you're intimate with someone, then you care about them whether you agree with them or not. I mean, how many of us have family members that we'd rather do without, but they're family, we love them, and we want to try to keep the relationship. And so we communicate and we work through things and we try. And we stopped doing that as a society. We stopped trying. We sit back and just judge. And that's what is not working for us anymore.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that I feel like in one sense, I felt at one point we were coming a long way. And then I feel like this past year really just took us back to almost say, have we really evolved at all?
Yeah.
You may be surprised to know, because you're living in North Carolina right now, but do you realize that the town that you grew up in right to this day is having fights over diversity and inclusion in the Carmel schools, where literally the parents are opposing this.
Wow.
Saying that they don't need it and that it will inhibit their children's freedom of speech. So that I guess you should feel free to call somebody an N-word whenever you feel like calling it.
Yeah.
But the crazy part is that this is still where we are. This is right
Yeah.
now. You can Google it right now.
Well, this is a perfect example, Yolanda, because what I want to say to that person that's driving that movement is, what's going on with you? Walk me through that.
Yeah.
How do you get to a place in your life that you feel like you can't be around someone of a different color? Walk me through that. I'm not going to judge you. I just want to understand.
Yeah. It's something there, because we do know that, racism is a learned behavior. You don't grow up racist. If you put a group of kids together and they wouldn't know from Adam who was who. Now, you may know that your skin tone looks different, but I wouldn't know that I need not to like you, just because you're the color of your skin.
I had an interesting experience the other day. I was out grabbing something to eat, and a gentleman at the restaurant, a young boy, had his mask on, and he came up, he said, "You're Taj, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, my dad told me to find you and ask you some questions." I said, "Why?" And he pulled his mask down, and he had a facial palsy. Well, 2 years ago, I woke up, and the whole side of my right face was drooped down like this, and it scared me. I went to the emergency room and ended up, I was having a palsy issue, and they didn't know if it would get better or anything like that. I couldn't stop working. I couldn't stop taking my kids to school. I didn't even stop doing stuff on air where I had to have my face on air. So what I didn't realize was that people are always watching. And the young man said to me, "Yeah, my dad said that you went through a facial palsy and you got over it and you didn't let it slow you down because you still kept going. I'd like to know how to do that." And that just stopped me in my tracks, because I didn't know that guy from it, and I was very embarrassed. And why I have the sunglasses, because it's still in my eye, it's still in my face, but you just can't tell. And I did a lot of work, and thankful to a very good acupuncturist as well. But people are always watching what you're doing.
Yes.
And when you put yourself in this platform, they're watching even more.
Yeah.
So when we say, walk me through that, it's to not only know your story, it's because in knowing your story is helping to heal someone else, whether you know it or not. So
that's right.
That's what we look forward to.
You get those viewers that have that same. That's what I was saying. It's being vulnerable, telling your story, so viewers know who you are and understand that as beautiful as you are, you went through some things in your life. It hasn't always been this way. I tell my story all the time because I think it's important for people to know that while I'm successful today, I had hell 3 years ago and almost lost the job and got demoted, and things happen in our lives all the time, losing parents, car wrecks, whatever it is that creates that trauma in your life. That's what it's about, the trauma that's been created. And we don't get to judge one person's trauma over another person's trauma just because we would think, well, that's no big deal to me, I could handle that, right? We don't do that. But when people see that you've been through
and
some
you come out on the other side.
There you go.
I'm all about coming out on the other side. You asked me the other day, what are some things you went through? Well, the facial palsy. I went through my divorce and all that goes with that.
Oh, yeah.
That was
been
stressful.
there, done that.
And I kept saying, hey, one day you're going to feel better. You're going to come out on the other side. You're not going to feel sad every day. You're not going to want to cry every day. You're not going to be mad every day. And I'll never forget when that day came. I was just getting ready, and I woke up in that tightness, that anger that you carry because you're mad at everybody. You're going through a divorce. You're mad at your attorney, and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I think I just started smiling and laughing because I come out on the other side. So we want this to be, hey, when we say, walk me through that, we want to walk through so you come out on the other side too, because that is the story. It's so people can see that regular folks, just like us, we came out on the other side, and we are more than superhuman people when we hear other stories we share, and we can become superhuman beings. And so that's what this show is going to be about, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
So, Deborah, what do you think some of the reasons are that people are afraid of vulnerability? What are the mechanisms? How do we get people out of that? Because a lot of people aren't going to just come and walk me through that. Is there a method to this?
Yeah. So that's why, it's so important that when people come on the show that they feel safe. There are principles that we know from a science standpoint that make people feel safe. One of them is accountability, honesty, fidelity, equity, inviolacy, which is the way we speak to each other. When we have those in healthy measures present, then we can be vulnerable. And then we are an intermittent reward-based species, right? So if we don't feel a reward to being vulnerable, then we won't do it. It's interesting because when you have a child who doesn't get fed by their parent, or their parent is frustrated when they have to feed them when they're an infant, then the infant will teach itself not to be hungry, not even not to cry, but to not be hungry, because we adapt because we want to survive in our tribe. We call it a failure to thrive, but it's what the brain tells an infant to do in order to survive. It's misguided, it's misdirected. So the more we reject vulnerability as a society, the harder it is for people to be vulnerable. If we start accepting people when they're vulnerable, appreciating people and saying, wow, that really meant something to me, thank you for sharing that, then people are going to be more inclined to share.
Because a lot of people think that's a sign of weakness.
Yes.
And how do we overcome that stigma? When you think about a lot of mental health, conditions, people aren't so forthcoming because even from a culture standpoint, it means different things in different cultures.
Yeah.
So how do we kind of get them over that? I know there's a lot. If you've noticed, are we still in it? I don't know. We just came out of Mental Health Month, Awareness Month, right?
I think we're probably still in it because it's probably the fastest growing illness is going on right now.
But they have the Awareness Month. It was in May. But here's what's interesting. Did you notice how now celebrities are coming out and really owning their own issues to make it safe, right? To be able to say, sometimes I'm not okay.
And that's the answer, right? Like I was so encouraged to see, I think it was Oprah Winfrey and Prince Harry did a show on mental health for Apple TV that's airing right now. And it is big name celebrities that are getting on there, and also everyday people that are getting on there and sharing their personal experiences.
And I'm all for the everyday people.
Yeah.
I'm all for the everyday people.
I am too.
We
but
need
I think,
it
but
all.
sometimes,
I get your point.
Yeah, but I mean, those would be people that would have they would have hid that to the depths, thinking
they
it would hurt their brand. You got it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So when you can say, okay, I don't care about the brand, I want to be authentic and share, and you can do that in a way that will endear people. I think if they can do it, then maybe the ordinary person says, well, then so can I, because I don't even have as much at risk as maybe that individual has. That's where I'm going with that. Yeah.
I mean, there's only two reasons that people change. They're either in enough pain to change, which I think as a society we're at that point. As a society we're in pain, right? We're not getting along on a lot of levels. And then the other reason people change is they're inspired to change. And that's what this show is about, trying to get people to change or offer that option through inspiration, right?
I like to empower, so I'm with you there. That's the best way.
And we do want to have people who are bringing on just some over-the-top positive stories, too, that are just, not everyone in life has always been through a lot of negative things. Some people have managed to keep their lives moving in a positive way by not delving into whether it's having bad relationships, having substance abuse, or what. There are those people. We want to find them too, and we want to say, "Hey, come and tell us."
Do they exist?
They do exist.
Do they exist?
Well, they've done been through something. It just may not be to the magnitude where it just took them all the way down. Because we all go through something.
Right.
Yeah,
and usually those folks it's a support system around them. Is what you find out. Yeah. Having grandma and dad, all that.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a coach, maybe it was a teacher, but it goes back to it was having folks around you, keeping you. That's right. That's why the concept of walking in a straight line may look good, but sometimes we just got to walk in a group, because if you lean this way, somebody's got you. Lean that way, somebody's got you. Lean that way. So sometimes when we just come together and we cleave to one another, that's how we stand strong. You know what I mean?
Makes sense. Makes sense. No, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So when are you planning on launching the podcast? That's
today. We're right here doing it.
Okay, well, this is it. This is it.
See, it's names right there.
There you go. This is it. We have come out. We're gonna be on the air real soon.
This is the jump off. You don't know about the jump off. This is the jump off. Who knew we were coming to Naptown for the jump off?
Hey, you know what?
I had to come here though because I've been mad at Indianapolis
for what?
Since 1982.
82?
I grew up in Baltimore.
Okay.
Oh, the Colts.
And
okay.
Colts.
And
we left the night.
In the night. Okay.
I said, let me come to Indianapolis. But now we're the Ravens, and we doing well.
Y'all doing fine.
Y'all can keep the Colts now.
Exactly. Oh, now you're saying that. Well, we paid our dues for a couple years because they didn't do so well. We got them, but they didn't do so well. But then we were able to rebound.
But we're having such a good time here in Indianapolis. Last night, our director and marketer and all things great person, Maya, we went to go grab something to eat, and we went to this dive bar, and we walked in and was like, oh, it's a dive bar.
Where'd y'all go? AJ's?
No, we went to Checker Flag.
What are you talking about? Whispering Angel. What are you talking about? Where you been going?
Is that the club?
I don't know, but I'm asking some questions at the end of the show.
Well, and this is a timely time to give Maya Swan a shout out.
Maya? Can we get the camera on Maya?
Yeah.
Can we turn it?
But we went to the spot last. We went to the spot last night, and it was a dive bar, what some people call a biker bar, whatever. Those people so sweet and kind and nice to us.
You don't remember the name of it?
Checker Flag.
Oh, the Checker Flag. Yeah,
Checker Flag.
Okay.
And it was a.
We got to talk after the show.
Let me tell you something.
Yolanda knows all the spots.
I know.
I'm not saying I do.
You can't be a person of the people if you don't get with the people. You know what I'm saying?
There
so Yolanda's been getting with the people.
I said if you're going to witness to them, you got to go where they are. So I've been in some places, seen many faces.
Hey, there she is.
So we've been treated well here in. Is this still Indianapolis where we are by the air? Or is this like a suburb of Indianapolis?
This is Indianapolis.
It's still Indianapolis.
Yeah, we've been treated well in Indianapolis, and definitely look forward to coming back. And in North Carolina, growing up there's always been some racial issues in different places, and that we've all, based on our age bracket, have been through.
Yeah.
What we're trying to provide is that our children, it's great to be Jewish, it's great to be black, it's great to be Irish, it's great to be Italian, it's great to be, love who you are.
Yeah.
And love your ethnicity and where you come from. And we should embrace that. Yeah. But when it gets to be to where we can't be in the same room simply because we don't share the same ethnicity, then that's a problem. So
it is a problem.
We try to make it for our youth, our youth to make it nice.
And you know what is amazing to me? How do we as a country take something that happens and then all of a sudden extrapolate it to the whole population? So right now we're dealing with a lot of, hate and threats on our Jewish communities, right? It's amazing just based on what happened over in Israel and Palestine and the issues that they have. Then we come back to America and do that. We did the same thing to the Asians when the I was going to say the bird flu, when the coronavirus, was reportedly started over in China. Yeah. Then all of a sudden we want to inflict crime and hate and threat on the Asians. This is the craziest thing to me ever.
It's and that's why human survival. It's pandemic fear of being lost.
That's the answer. The answer is fear.
Fear.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy,
fear is the root of all anxiety. It's the root of all division, and that's why walk me through that is served to take away that fear. Well, how can I be afraid of this person if I've been through what they've been through? I just don't look or believe look like them or believe the same things, but I've been through what they're, so that makes it harder for me to not like them or fear them or hate them, because I'm looking for similarities now. And when we look for similarities, now we're starting to connect in an energy of love instead of an energy of fear. Again, what happens is that stuff goes on in the world, the ego gets triggered, it wants to feel better than, separate, greater than, to squash the fear.
What were some of the fears that you went through, that you had to recognize and you had to handle?
Oh, I mean, I had a lot of fears growing up. I had a fear that I wouldn't be able to make it in the world on my own because I didn't have a lot of family support, had to pay for my own college. I had a fear that I wouldn't know how to achieve my dreams, you know. I wasn't one of those fortunate people that Taj was just talking about. I didn't have any teachers or coaches. I did sports, I went to school, but I didn't have teachers or coaches that stepped in and tried to mentor me. I was a pretty walled off kid, you know, so I didn't have those mentors to say, well, this is how this is done. I can remember filling out college applications and just feeling like I don't know what I'm doing, like I don't know how to go to college.
I got one better. You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Walk me through. Wait a minute. Walk me through that.
Okay, let me walk you through that.
Not through this, through that.
Yeah.
I had a similar situation. This is where we're like. Check this out.
This is where
I
we're
had
similar.
a similar situation. My parents weren't educated, never went to college, so they really didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do, and so I never knew that I could take out a student. You hearing me? A student loan. This is
we
back,
walked the same path.
and guess what? I had to pay for my college 100% of the way myself. It took me 7 years to get my undergraduate degree, but I paid
That's
it
a great story.
100% in cash.
That's awesome.
So the good thing is that I didn't graduate with debt, right? But the sad part is that again, not having the mentors, the coaches, the sponsors, the support system. You know, that's why I do what I do. You know, and I help people to understand that these things are important because you can go further faster. So while it's great that I was able to endure, imagine if we could help others to not have to go that path and the road can be a little smoother.
Well, that's the beauty of, I mean, look at how the medium of media is changing. We now are able to, a la carte, pick, I want to watch the Beast Crayton show. I want to see Walk Me Through That. I want to watch Taj. I want to watch. So you can now, instead of just having stuff being thrown at you that you may not want and may not be good for you, we can now pick and select through podcasts and different things what we want to be feeding us. And I think that that's very, very important because sometimes that mainstream TV, sorry for y'all who watch that mainstream TV, because where I live, ain't nobody hating no Jewish people. Where I live, ain't no Asian hate going. So it's like I see it on TV, but I don't see it in my reality when I walk outside.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
So fortunately, the medium of media is now getting to where I can choose what I'm going to pick and watch, what soothes my soul and my ears the way I want it. So these shows, like what you're doing and what we're doing, that's important because now people can say, well, I don't want to watch mess all day. I want to get something that's going to feed me right.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Feed that soul
this is
and
the
not
beauty of it.
terrorize the mind.
That's right.
Yes.
I think a lot of it is also that the last couple of seasons that we dealt with guests and people, celebrities, a lot of people don't have that social connection anymore. They don't have that support group anymore. And I really think a lot of people, outside of the word afraid, a lot of people are basically walking alone.
Well, guess what?
Agreed.
COVID didn't help.
Agreed.
And one of the things is that we talk about it all the time is that having that fear of literally being isolated in an environment where you're told, and we're just now starting to get back. Traffic was awful today, by the way, because I came from the far north side. I mean, it was packed. You would have thought, okay, is it the holiday again? What's going on? People
We
are
were told
so
you're bringing lunch.
That's why I'm going to take you to lunch. See, did he say on air that I was late? Jesus.
But here's a really important point that you're making, because we did, when the pandemic hit, we saw everything skyrocket: suicide, divorce, baby boom, alcoholism,
domestic
drug
violence,
everything skyrocketed. I mean, and I'm not just saying that. We have statistical evidence of that. And the reason for that is that because people can't be by themselves anymore because they don't know or love themselves anymore. And one of the reasons they don't love themselves is because they can't be vulnerable to share themselves, and then that results in shame.
I was just going to say that because
so
now
you're
with your partner or your significant other, and you go to work 8 hours a day with the kids. Now all of a sudden you're in confinement
with a person you really don't know, but been living
with. You got to be cooped up and be like, whoa.
And if there's no money coming in, the bills are mounting up.
Yeah.
We need to put stuff in fridge. So not only that, but you get these other stressors that aren't being met in life. So that was the perfect storm for what happened. And hopefully we're going towards direction to where that's ending. But to your point, there should have been something to be learned through all that experience,
Yes.
though. There's something we should glean from that and be able to move forward collectively.
I would say your show now is needed more than ever. Do you know that I heard, and you can validate this, that even if you wanted to go and see a therapist, you can't get in there so
I was just going to say that. They're backed up.
They're so backed up. I mean,
I have a waiting list for my waiting list.
a waiting list. Did you hear that? A waiting list for the waiting
But you know
list.
what's also so funny? Millions of people now are calling to get help when it was total taboo for people.
Good point. Good
That's
point.
true.
Good point.
Yeah,
good
that
point,
is-
good
that's
point,
true,
good
too.
point,
Now
good
you
point.
can't even
So
get
we
in.
want them to get help, but now it's overwhelming the system just
Yeah.
simply because
Yeah.
that
Sorry,
wasn't.
we're booked right now.
Yes.
Well, and then
you
that
gotta
brings
hold your
in
mental thought.
that brings in class and economics, because people who are uninsured are going to have to pay out of pocket.
And they're definitely going to the back of the list.
And they're going to the back of the list, or they're going to agencies,
Yeah.
which may have student therapists or people that aren't as trained in some of the bigger things like trauma, personality disorders, marriage and family. So they're getting less quality care in some cases. I mean, there's good therapists everywhere.
Well, they're learning. They're in training.
learning.
You know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But again, it brings us back to the have and the have-nots, right? Another division.
Yes.
that
Take
needs
me
to be
down
addressed.
the part that you talked about that you've actually experienced the issue with the insurance. Take me down that for a minute.
Oh yeah, I mean, my middle son was sick for 10 years, and we could, at that time, there was no, if you let your insurance lapse, then you had to get, you wouldn't be covered anymore. And his medical bills were in the hundreds of thousands of literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so no matter what was going on in our house, we had to pay that insurance bill. And sometimes we had to take from this to pay that insurance bill.
Rob Peter to pay Paul.
That's right, exactly. Because at that point we weren't at an economic level. And in fact, when he was an infant, he needed to have this formula that was $18 a can. He had to have 3 cans a day. We made too much money for WIC.
Yeah.
But not enough money to be able to afford that.
Yeah.
And so you get in these loops of the have and the have-nots. But if we circle it back to mental health, we have an epidemic, right? And then we don't have the resources for everybody.
Yeah, you know what's
Yeah.
kind of interesting? I'm not going to get us off, but that's the working poor. You got a job.
Yes.
You just don't qualify for the insurance, or you can't afford the insurance.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? But you're working.
Yeah.
It's not like you're sitting here wanting to be taken care
That's right.
of, you know.
And then the insurance that you can't afford, you're going to have a bazillion-dollar deductible.
Exactly.
And you
Well,
have to go
especially
to 2
today,
doctors.
You know,
Yeah.
especially today. Yeah,
Yeah.
that it's a cycle that we really got to figure out a way to do it. And I think one of the ways,
Yeah.
and I hope we can get there, is just really increasing that minimum wage so people can have a livable wage. There's a difference in a minimum wage and a livable
Absolutely.
I
wage.
just talked to somebody about it. I'm glad you brought that up, because I told somebody asked me, say, how do we move forward? And it's kind of like what Todd said and what you said, Deborah, and what you just said. People want to be comfortable. They want to have a secure job, make a decent wage, and feel safe.
But you bring up a good point, Andre, because we sit here and we tell ourselves it's an issue of money, but really it's the feeling that money brings, which is freedom. It's an issue of freedom.
Yeah, I like it.
It's not the actual money.
That's
it's
right.
the issue of freedom.
Yes.
And how do we bring some of the freedoms afforded to people with money to the people that don't have money?
And it reduces the fear.
And it reduces the fear.
The fear.
It always
the
comes
fear
back
of
to
not
the fear.
having the fear of can't take care of your family, the fear of no
That's
food
right.
on the table.
So,
Yeah.
I'm excited because one of the guests that we have coming up is a lady who, when I first met her, and she told me what she did, I think it may not seem like it, but I'm an easy crier. A story can hit me.
Oh,
and
God, let me come up with a story to make them cry.
In a heartbeat. But this
My
lady-
eyes already over here watering.
Oh, so that's the reason he's wearing sunglasses.
So this lady has an organization called Pharaoh's Daughter, and what she does is, if a woman's about to be incarcerated and has had a baby or is about to have a baby, she gets permission to take care of that child until the mom is released from jail. And I actually got to see one of those before when, this is always a tough one. When seeing a mom being reunited with her child. And when you see this and you see the work that people are doing out here, you're like, how can we be mean to one another? Because that vibration in and of itself, when I think about it right now, just makes me feel nothing but love and
right.
And just being humble. We're going to have this lady as a guest, and when she sits there and tells that, and maybe I'll go and finally edit the video and we can play that. But when people doing work like that,
yes,
that is,
Yes.
I don't go to church, but we are the church, so that's having
right.
church right there.
Where two or more gathered
that's right.
in
So
his
when we
name.
can bring guests on like that can reach out through the internet and touch the people's heart, like I see it touch your heart, just
yes.
because
yes.
So
I'm a
really,
mom, I get it.
That's right.
You know
so
what I mean?
I'm really excited that we can bring people that will do that.
And
what I mean?
that is important, because I think what we don't do is spotlight enough of the good people that are out here. So even in trying to help somebody with trauma, you highlighting organizations or individuals that are really actively supporting these causes to make sure that people have an opportunity, because that's all it is. At the end of the day, I tell them, we don't want a handout, we want a hand up. It's a hand up.
And sometimes we need a hug too. Come on.
Hey.
Well, and that's kind of the point of the show. It's like we're going to have Andre on as a guest.
Oh, God, you don't want my story.
And, everything he's got going on in his life, everything he's accomplished in his life, we're actually going to talk about one moment in his life that was really challenging for him. Because we want to get down to that vulnerability, that heart and soul. Because then they look at someone like Andre, who's successful and has all these accomplishments, and says, well, wait a minute, he was homeless? Like, what? And he's now here in this chair,
Yep.
And then that gives that person watching at home going, well, maybe if he can do it, I can do it. And maybe I don't have to judge him so harshly, or maybe it's not him versus me. Maybe it's, wow, that's similar, looking for the similarities.
I once read a quote, and I'll mess it up. Basically, it was like, when you meet someone who has done great things or self-actualized or seems to be on top of the world, when you meet someone who's really walking that walk, they don't want you to bow to their feet and kneel at their feet or anything, because they know that what they have achieved, you have inside of you to achieve that too.
Absolutely.
So there is no looking down. It's you got it in you as well. So to be able to provide that sort of platform, those sort of guests who can come and be that, I mean, it's exciting.
And it's the realism, because you know what, a lot of what our kids are presented today is not real world.
That's right.
You're not going to go out here and be the instant millionaire. You're not going to go out here and get the basketball contract. You're not going to be the rapper. You're not. Those happen to a very small amount of people. That's not the norm, and that's where it gets twisted, because most people that have been successful have failed time after time after time. The difference between them is they never gave up.
And then the failures don't become failures. They actually become little rewards that you then wear, because without those experiences, you wouldn't be where you are. So you wear those failures as like some fine jewelry, then nah, I went through that because I had to. And that's what makes life good,
But they need to know it's just not easy, and you just have to stay the course. So hopefully that will...
if you look at the work of Viktor Frankl, he was a psychologist back during the war, World War II. And he was put in Auschwitz concentration camp, and he used that time to study human behavior. And he has a book on his research called Man's Search for Meaning. And essentially what he learned, and he had this whole logo theory and all this other stuff, but the essence of what he learned is that the people that survived the concentration camps had one thing in common, and that was they believed that they had a higher purpose, that there was a higher calling. And that's what this show is also serving to do, is to remind people that we all have a higher purpose. We all have a higher calling. And sometimes we get filled with fear and we forget about that. And so we're hoping that this can be a platform where people can start to look at themselves and say, you know what, I believe in that cause. I might be able to make a difference in that cause, or I've been through that, and maybe my higher purpose is along that same line too. Or I've judged that, and maybe I don't need to judge that, and maybe I can look and see what's going on in me and find my higher purpose, if that makes sense. That's really the essence and the soul of the show.
Gotcha.
It's a show that's clearly long overdue.
Absolutely. Or no, just on time.
On time.
I'm going to say on time.
That's right. I like
Because
that.
where we are today, it's on time.
That's right.
It's coming on time.
It's
All
on
timing
time.
is perfect.
And we are very proud and honored to have been the host in the spotlight
Of the coming out.
AKA the jump
Walk
off.
me.
AKA the jump off.
AKA the jump off of walk me through that. Love it, love it, love it. It's been a pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thanks for
this
having
has
us on.
been the Andre the Beast Show.
Show.